Hi, Greg. Thanks for joining us today. Everyone
Absolutely.
and the viewers, I want to introduce Greg Nicholas. He is an Allstate agent. He is joining us today to talk a little bit about homeowners insurance and the importance of that as you move down the pathway of purchasing a home. And Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why it's so important that we get homeowners insurance as we go through the purchasing process here.
Okay. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate you inviting me. And I've been an Allstate agent for 40 years, and Allstate's been around for many years. People are very familiar with it. No two houses are the same. So it's important to have homeowners insurance. The bank requires you to have it, first of all.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure you're protecting that biggest asset that you're buying. It's probably, the most money you've ever spent in your entire life. A lot of houses are different. We cover roofs, we cover your contents, we cover the liability in case somebody falls and sues you. We cover utility lines outside. We cover, things that happen if your roof collapses, if you have flood, all those types of things. And we kind of go through a questionnaire for each customer because everybody's unique and everybody's different.
Right.
People have collectibles, they have pets, they have different things. So there's a lot of facets to the homeowner's policy, and each one is really custom built with us. So it's it's done, if it's done properly, you have the things covered that are important to you.
Yeah. And homeowners insurance, as you highlighted, is a requirement for the banks. When purchasing a home, they have to protect that asset in case of any storm damage. What are typically some of the things that homeowners insurance will cover? And then maybe what are some of the things that's not covered in homeowners insurance?
Well, kind of crazy things that are happening now. We're covering electric vehicles. We're starting to see a lot of fires from electric vehicles being plugged in.
Wow.
If you buy a Tesla, and you plug that in, you want to make sure you let your carrier know that so that you have coverage for that. We've had several fires with that. We've also had fires for a lot of the toys that kids have now, the little skateboards and motorized skateboards and things. I mean, very quick with the lithium batteries for those things to heat up and cause fires. We've had fires even from laptops. People leave their laptop plugged in, and lithium batteries for our world are kind of scary.
Yeah. That's really interesting, Greg, that you highlighted that electric cars are becoming more of something that we have to let you guys know about, because I've been hearing and seeing that in the news more often about those batteries catching fire. So that's really interesting. I didn't realize that is on the radar and part of the things you need to notify the insurance agent about.
And that's especially important if you have an older home that you're buying, because you can think about it. You have a 200 amp service even in a house. You plug in your dryer only runs for about an hour and then it shuts off. But if you plug in an electric car, you're running that 220 volt surge through there for a solid 8 hours. That gets your electric lines red hot. So it doesn't take a whole lot to cause a fire from that.
Good point. So typically, as a homeowner myself, homeowners insurance will cover storm damage. What other things typically will a homeowners insurance cover?
Well, storm damage, and the biggest one we have, backup of water and sewer. We have a lot of floods that come through and sudden rainstorms and things. The 100-year flood is now turning out to be the 10-year flood. So, those things back up. You have liability coverages. If you have a dog and your dog bites somebody, they're going to sue you. You want to make sure you have the proper liability for that. All the different things we do, things we volunteer for. You have people over to your home. They're on your property. If they get hurt, they're going to look to you to take care of them and their medical bills. So, all those things encompass your homeowners. It's kind of a little liability policy that walks along with you. In addition to covering the house. So,
and a lot of people don't realize that it's not just to fix your house up; it's also the liability piece. If somebody does get injured in your home or something happens, that's the peace of mind that you have that that's covered.
Yes.
So Greg, what are some of the things that people should be aware of that homeowners does not cover that you typically kind of maybe see people calling, to try to make a claim, but it's not covered under homeowners insurance?
Well, a lot of the things that people are miscovering, for one, is jewelry. A lot of people have collectibles and jewelry, and they just think all that stuff is covered, and it's not. You have to pick some specific things to cover with. Same thing with guns and things people have for its collections. Those things have to be listed and put on the policy properly, or else they're not covered. One big exclusion that you'll see in all homeowners policies is flood. So if you're in a flood area, you need to buy a separate flood policy to cover you.
I see that.
If you're in a flood area, your mortgage company is going to see that on the property survey. They're going to say, hey, you're in a flood zone. You've got to get flood insurance. We do have availability to get that for you, but you don't want to buy it unless you have to, because it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So,
and that's called out typically if it's in a federal flood zone, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, if you're not in a flood zone, you can buy a preferred flood policy, and they're as cheap as $295 a year. So, sometimes if you're not in a flood zone, but you're in one of these freak storms that floods your basement, you would want to have that coverage.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I always just price it out for the customer and give them an option if they want it or they don't want it. So.
Excellent. No, that's good. And homeowners, so here's something else. So, question for you. Homeowners is typically collected during settlement, and it's usually homeowners insurance, the first year premiums collected up front, correct?
Yes. Depending on how your lender wants to do it, we can either take payment and send them a paid receipt, or we can just send them a billing and have it collected at settlement, whichever they prefer. We'll do that, whatever suits with the customer and the lender. A lot of times the lenders, if they're going to do one check at settlement, they'll say we'll just take care of it out of the escrow account. So
yeah, and that's true. Yeah, and it goes into the escrow. But that's something to keep in mind for our viewers, is that when you purchase a home and you get the mortgage, and you're sitting down signing the escrows that are things being put into the escrow, you will see a first full year premium of that homeowner's insurance right up front being paid. So that policy's in place, it's active, the day you sign, which is very important because that's your house. And anything, as you highlighted, Greg, it could happen. And, I've seen all kinds of things that could potentially happen in the first couple of days or first night that you're there with a storm or God knows what else. So it's important to have that policy in place.
And we have situations where people settle, but they don't move in the property right away, or they have rent back situations. We cover all of those things too. We can just put the policy in force ahead of time so that your interests are protected.
So that you highlight something there. So if you have a rent back situation, is there a separate or a different type of policy? So they're not going to live there, but they have the old owners living there for a time period. Is there a different policy, or is it all covered typically under the homeowners umbrella?
Would typically be covered under the homeowners. The way that would work is we would just start the homeowners policy a little bit early if they're going to move things in early, or if the other person's going to stay, and they would leave their policy in force to cover their contents. Our policy would cover the new owner.
Okay. That's
and
good.
It's normally not a long-term situation. That's normally a week or two or a month, that type of thing.
Okay. Excellent. Any tips to give new homeowners just to make sure that they are, as they move in and they're I've seen homeowners policies increase because of nitpicking kind of claims being made and other kind of stuff. What kind of tips can you give our viewers to kind of make sure that they're not artificially inflating their homeowner's policy? Just because you get a rate doesn't mean it won't go up. Just like car insurance or anything else. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. Just
the best thing I would recommend, that it kind of covers all the bases, is get a whole house inspection. When you get that inspection, everything is up to code. They're going to look at the roof, they're going to look at the furnace, they're going to look at the general condition of the home, so that if there is a problem, you still have a chance to say, hey, I need that fixed or I need something repaired. So that you don't have the insurance company come out, inspect the house and say, oh my goodness, your roof is bad, your siding's falling off, there's some things up here we didn't see. So if you have that whole house inspection done up front, that's going to alleviate a lot of those problems.
Yeah, I agree. And then really, if there's a deductible typically with your homeowner's insurance,
Yes.
I typically will see what $500 deductible or $1,000 deductible.
500 to 1,000.
Yeah.
As costs have gone up, people have gone to $1,000 as almost a standard now to try to keep the pricing down because materials are so expensive. But you can make sure that you have a couple of things you want to make sure that your home does cover. You want to make sure you have replacement cost on the house, and you want to make sure you have a modern policy. There's homeowners 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 5. Homeowners 5 is your best form of policy. Okay. That's what we write. But you'll see a lot of, if people want to give you a cheap price, they'll quote you a homeowners 2, which doesn't cover much more than fire. And that's a problem. So your hot water heater goes out, you have something happen with a lightning strike, those kind of things, you don't have any coverage because it doesn't cover those things. It also doesn't give you replacement cost.
Yeah.
So, you can buy a Tesla or you can buy a Volkswagen. So it's a matter of which one do you want to get. You want to make sure that you're covered properly, but you also want to make sure you're making it cost effective as well. So.
Right, and you don't want to buy a policy and then be like, I should have bought the other one, because you don't know what you don't need, or you don't know what you need until you need it. And insurance, as far as I'm concerned, especially being a homeowner myself, anything can happen. Trust me, anything can happen. It's insane. So. That's one thing I would say to our viewers, is don't go cheap on your homeowner's insurance, because as Greg highlights, it's the most expensive purchase probably that you'll make, and it's the most costly to repair and keep up to code and up to snuff, especially if there's been some natural disasters or things that should be covered that you may let me save a couple dollars here or there on homeowners. It's not worth it. Trust me.
Crazy things I've had happen. I had a customer that called me one day and he said, Greg, he said, please tell me I'm covered. He said, I went up into the attic. He said, I was rolling out insulation. I fell through the attic and onto my wife's car. And he said, now her car has a huge butt print right in on the hood. And he said, I'm sleeping on the couch. So please tell me I'm covered. Yes, we covered that. He was the falling object and it was covered. So
good.
Crazy things that happen. Had a gentleman that dropped a cannonball from Gettysburg. He was a collector, bought a cannonball. He dropped that into a clawfoot tub. So you can imagine what happened to the porcelain clawfoot tub. So those kind of things are happening. But you have to have the proper type of policy to have those things covered. So.
Of course. But to your point is, and this is, I think, I want to round out with this as we kind of close out, is that every policy is different for each person. And when you go about, filling out the questionnaire or, personalizing that policy, really think about, the contents and the things that you want covered, as well as don't go, cheap, and if you have to, you have to, but understand that, to Greg's point, if you're calling him up saying, is this covered? Please let this be covered. He can't go back in time and change your, what you wrote down. And if you're only covered for small, minute, things, then, that's, you're going to have to out of pocket coverage, basically going to be repairing your house. So, and trust me, as a homeowner, and I'm sure Greg will agree with this, it's better to have the insurance in place than to sit there and go, I should have, would have, could have. And you're facing a $10,000 to $20,000 repair that's going to come out of your pocket because insurance doesn't cover it. So
that's why you need the expertise of an agent. I've been doing this for 40 years. I can sit down and guide people through the process of what you should cover, what you can leave out if you need to leave things out. But this is not a do-it-yourself deal. You really need an agent to guide you, especially if it's your first home, so that you buy the proper things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time today.
Sure.
really appreciate the fact you come on, and probably have you back as we kind of may drill into little subsections of the homeowners policy, because I think our viewers would love to hear a little bit about different things and different coverage aspects of the homeowners insurance. I think today doing an overview of the homeowners insurance is really good. And one thing we didn't talk about is bundling. That's also a nice thing to save, is to not only have your car insurance, but to have your homeowners insurance together. That's typically you see a bundle and a savings with that with insurance companies. So that's something maybe we could talk about later, and other components of
Absolutely.
insurance. So thanks, Greg, for your time today. And for my viewers, Greg his contact information is there on the screen. So reach out to Greg if you have any further questions or inquiries as you get closer to making your decision on your next home. So thanks a lot for your time, Greg, and team. Talk to you later. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.